Hi, everyone. Welcome to this wealthmanagement.com fast chat. I'm Shannon Rossick, and today I'm so excited to be joined by Joe Coleman, market leader for the Wisconsin and Indiana market for Wells Fargo Advisors. In this conversation, we'll explore the factors advisors should consider when evaluating their next career move, the importance of finding the right fit for both themselves and their clients, and how Wells Fargo Advisors positions itself as a strong option in today's competitive landscape. Plus, we'll dive into Joel's career journey. So with that, let's get started. Joel, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you, Shannon.
So as I said, we would love to hear more about your current role and what led you ultimately to Wells Fargo.
I actually got my start in the business as a stockbroker in the late 80s. I got into leadership actually about 10 years later in the late 90s. And back then, we had this kind of we'll call it a power struggle in leadership. There were leaders who believed that this business was about sales and selling things to people. And then there was a group that I was a part of, and we all believed that this business was not about sales, but it was about planning and it was about service and it was about helping people and solving problems. And so fortunately, here we are 20 years later, and everything is now centered around planning and providing services and who have you helped and what problems have you solved. So it's a great business to be in.
Well, that is what wealth management is all about. It's the relationships and the clients. So what led you specifically to Wells Fargo?
Well, the short answer is clients led me to Wells Fargo. I was managing the largest office in the state of Colorado for a major competitor of ours, a major wirehouse firm, and a large number of clients, as well as financial advisors, actually had their accounts with Wells Fargo. And at the time, that company really didn't view Wells Fargo as a competitor, but I did. And as I continued to look at Wells Fargo as a competitor, I realized, you know what, that's a great place for clients. They're taking care of a lot of the things that we were unable to take care of at the time. And it was a great place for advisors as well.
And you've had the opportunity to speak with a number of advisors who are really considering maybe changing firms. What do you say to an advisor looking for the perfect firm or perfect fit?
Yeah, that's a great question. So first of all, I'll just say there are no perfect firms, right? There are none. There are, however, perfect fits, right? In other words, there are companies out there that are going to be a better fit for you and your clients than other firms. And our goal here at Wells Fargo isn't to try to convince you to join us. Our goal is to just try to figure out whether or not this is a good fit for you. And for a lot of people, it is.
And obviously, there's a lot to consider when you're changing firms and weighing an offer. So, what is the one question advisors should consider when they are making this choice?
Well, first of all, I think all advisors should do their due diligence. I think the one mistake that I see advisors make is sometimes they will choose a who firm. And if you can help it, right, you want to try to avoid joining a who firm. And you may be thinking, well, what's a who firm? Well, a who firm is when you call your client to say that, I just left the firm that I was with for the last 20 years, and I'm now joining XYZ and company. If your client says who, right, that's a who firm, right? Which means you're going to have double the work that you had before, right? You'll have to explain why you left your existing firm, and then you have to go into the background and explain the financials of the firm that your client hadn't heard of. So I would say that if you end up, choosing a firm that doesn't have, the name behind it, and it's not very familiar, just make sure you're being compensated for it, because you're going to have to work twice as hard to make things work out.
I'm stealing that terminology, who firm. I love that. But are there particular types of advisors that you like to speak to?
Well, personally, I like to talk to advisors who are actually happy where they are, Okay. And I like talking to folks who are happy where they are because they are in sound mind and they can make good decisions. And so I have this thing I call HALT, right? HALT. And what it means is I try not to, and I encourage other people not to make any major decisions if you're hungry, angry, lonely, or tired. Okay. And so if I find someone who is happy, it means they're good. They're not hungry, angry, lonely, or tired. And so when you're having a conversation with someone like me, you don't want to have that conversation the day after they cut your payout or the day after they decided to close your office, because you may not be thinking straight in the first firm that calls you, right? It's going to look great. So you want to have a conversation with a person like me when everything's great, everything's going well. And if it still looks good when everything's great, it's probably a good decision.
Well, I love that mentality. So any final thoughts you'd share with advisors who are considering the next move for their practice? It's a big decision.
Yeah, it's a huge decision. I would say, first of all, try to choose a firm that your clients can't outgrow. Try to choose a firm that you can't outgrow. And then, the last thing is just realize that if you do it right, you'll make a switch once and you won't have to ever do it again.
That is certainly great advice. Joel, really appreciate your insights and hearing more about your career journey. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you, Shannon.